At this time, we'll open the meeting of the Carver Conservation Commission for May 16th, 2018. Okay. Our first order of business is reorganization. What are we reorganizing?
Well, I think we're going to decide who was going to be chairman and who was going to be vice
Oh,
chairman.
good. Good idea.
Jim, you want to suffer another year, or what?
No.
Too bad.
Too bad nobody else wants it.
Too bad nobody else wants it. You got it.
Okay, I will accept it for one more year if I survive.
You will.
I might,
Do we have to make a motion?
Yes.
Actually, he has to relinquish the chair to Mary Ann or Brooke,
Brooke.
and then they'll have to make that motion, and then he can take.
Well,
it.
actually, no, they can't. See, they can't make a motion because they're not a member of the commission either.
Oh.
One of the others will have to make the motion. But I will step down as chair for the voting procedures, nominating and voting procedures.
All right.
So-
I'll make a motion that we nominate Jim Nowen for position of chair.
Yeah, okay, you do it. Good. I'll second.
And then you hold the vote.
All right.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope.
Nice try, Jim.
One abstention.
One
You're in.
opposed.
401. It's approved 401.
Now
Okay.
you're back in the gavel again. Now you
All
go
right.
ahead and we can put a vice chair.
Yep. Now, well, we've never had a vice chair, but I
Yeah,
suppose
gotta
it
have
would be a
vice
bad
chair.
idea.
He did way back, I think. Wasn't Dan vice chair for a
Then,
while or
maybe
something?
for a while, yeah. Okay,
Maybe not official.
but see, to have a vice chair, we have to create the position.
Oh,
I thought we had a position as vice chair when, didn't you, wasn't there a vice chair when that,
I thought Dan Fournier
Yeah,
was,
I'm
but
pretty
I,
sure.
But it's
It might
never
not
been
have been
continued.
official.
Once, yeah, that's the whole thing. Once he left, that we didn't continue the position.
oh, he didn't, yeah.
So, anyway, okay, what you have to do then is we have to make a motion
Yeah.
to create
Recreate.
the position of vice chair.
So you're the chair, you can make the motion.
No, I don't make motions.
Yes, you can. Why
No,
can't you?
Chair doesn't make motions, right?
Who does?
He doesn't make the motion.
Yeah. One of you guys make the motions. You make the motion, Mr. Tim.
I hear it, no, I don't want to do that. Let's see. I'd like to make a motion that we have an opening created for the position of vice chair. I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, we now have a position open for vice chairman,
Chair,
Conservation Commission. So, we need to have,
I would like to nominate Savory for the position of vice chair.
I'll second.
any other nominations?
No more.
I guess not. Okay.
Les Vallo wants it.
He doesn't have a choice either. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? You're done.
Okay.
All right, take care of that problem.
Okay, now, do we need no, our secretary's paid
what's the
for.
count on
That
that?
would be 5-0.
5-0.
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't need a treasurer.
You're in.
All the other,
That was quick.
We have a
Yeah.
secretary,
Yeah.
so we're good. And then we got Brooke, the chief cook and bottle washer, so we're all set.
All right.
Dog is
And
a
I
sergeant
can't
at arms.
vote.
okay.
Okay, let's go to business.
Any party? No, no. Okay, so, our appointments are, I guess, then finished. Now, do we have other appointments, people that want to talk to us for some reason? No?
No?
Okay, so our business. First item, septic repair, 87 Crystal Lake Drive.
Yep, that was just a septic upgrade at 87 Crystal Drive. I went out and looked at it, and, everything on Crystal Drive is within, 100 feet of some sort of well.
Right.
So now, you guys decided not to require any filings. So, yep, so.
Is
when it's-
is the septic system actually on their property?
Yes, it is. This one
As
is.
opposed to some of the ones in Crystal Lake, yeah.
This one is, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Now about the tree cutting.
Yes, Michael Carver from 3B Braddock Way called me and said that a couple of the trees behind his new condo, those new ones behind the doggy mall, a couple of his trees have had, kind of were hanging over from the storm. So I went to look at it, just figuring if it was something major, I would have you guys go. So anyway, I went, and it was like 3, birch saplings, maybe 6 inches in diameter, kind of hanging over. the edge, so he was just gonna have something. I said, as long as you come, cut the tops off and don't pull up the stumps, it'll be fine.
Okay.
And they were really probably 30 feet from the actual wetland. This is the
Mm-hmm.
side of that strip of woods that's right behind the condo, and then,
They
but
bent
it was
over
good he
from the
called. I
winter.
mean, at least, you know,
They
we
bent
put
over
all
from
the
the winter,
posts are
that's
up and
all.
everything there.
Right.
So that was why he called, because he, you know, we had the conservation post along the back of his property.
Did
Mm-hmm.
the builder supply the residents with boats when they moved in?
No,
No,
not that I
okay.
know of.
People are actually paying attention to the posts, that's
Yeah.
good to see.
That's good.
These condos have frequently had a water level only about 10 or 15 feet from the front door, and we were a little concerned about it, but didn't seem we could do
They
anything
came
about
out
it.
pretty nice, though. Remember we went to COC? They came out pretty nice.
Okay.
Yep.
So then, we're at 182, the COC request for 182 Plymouth Street.
Yep.
Jeff Olson.
That was the one we looked at today.
Mm-hmm.
The house that was relocated
Right.
way back in, you know, with Cumberland Farms. So I need you to sign, I need to actually sign 2 copies of this, because they have a closing and they want 2 copies.
We need a motion, right?
Right. We
All
didn't
right.
see anything
We do.
to oppose the COC.
No, and I put in the, you know, in the actual, put it in the cover letter, and I'm gonna deliver it to the lawyer tomorrow, that they need to put up the posts that we talked about today, and, you know, no further work.
Right.
Continuing
And
conditions,
nothing
right?
goes on
Yeah,
inside that.
ongoing condition.
Right.
Ongoing conditions.
Yeah.
Inside the edge of the drop-off there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the COC request with the conditions as outlined by the conservation agent for 182 Plymouth Street, DEP number SE 126-69.
And you need to sign 2 copies,
Right.
because they're actually gonna record it themselves.
We need a second.
I'll second, sorry.
It's been moved and seconded that we issue a COC for 182 Plymouth Street, DEP SE 126-69. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's passed unanimous.
Extension request.
Okay. Then our next item is an extension request from the Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Refuse, better known as the CMAS dump on 118 Federal Road. And we agreed today, after a short look at it, that we needed more information, and so we're continuing that.
Yeah.
2 copies.
And I emailed the engineer and just said that we wanted to, you know, we'd set up a site visit before the next meeting.
Right.
Because we wanted to be updated. It was a whole
Yeah.
new commission, nobody knew
We
how
want
you
plans,
the project.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
You want that, was it the deer, was it the prime rib dinner there?
Yeah.
All right, minutes.
Both copies.
Okay.
You can actually,
I'll work on that.
Signatures is
Minutes,
not
okay,
like
go to that.
it's anybody's name.
What the heck is that?
I know. That's the only one that looks so.
It's Jim Savory.
Where's JP?
With these here. Sticking on my signature. I said,
Where's
did you
Tim?
look at Tim's?
Oh, that's Tim.
Yeah, that's Tim.
That's even worse than, I was just looking at this thing, never mind.
what did I do?
She was picking on my signature, said I had a horrible signature. I says, take a look over at Tim's. But it's unique. But you can't duplicate that.
Do you see any need to amend the minutes?
So she just has this thing called so. And I think what we're gonna do from now on it was Deb's suggestion,
Let me just see if I can find that guy's name, his full name.
It's nice to do that, because then people read it, then they'll.
Brooke, I'm not sure, but I think we should say that in last meeting's minutes, the 0 Rochester Road, the Edaville hearing, that it was continued again.
Oh, it didn't say that it was?
I think it does here, it says continued.
Well, that means it was continued to this meeting that we have the minutes of.
Oh, it is
But it's-
continued again.
Yeah, then it should say that it's being continued again.
Yeah, well, actually, but last time we wouldn't have known that,
Right.
because he
This is the
continued
minutes
like
of the last
the day before yesterday.
Right, this is the meeting, this is the minutes of last meeting.
Right.
And at that meeting, it was a continued hearing. Right, so, and at that time, we brought it up, and Brooke said, they've asked to be continued again. So that's what we have to, should note that it was discussed, and it was decided to continue it again. So that's what I'm saying. The minutes are to reflect the fact that we
Oh, I see what
continued
you're saying.
again.
So we should say there was a
okay.
discussion
Yeah.
that said that they requested a
Take it off.
continuance. Oh,
The top, wherever it is, put it underneath
yeah,
the.
and say that,
Either that or just at the end of it, just say, it was continued
yeah,
again.
or the applicant requested a continuance.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
okay.
You're talking about on the agenda?
Because
This last,
Oh, in the
the
minutes.
minutes that we have from last,
Sure, it should be like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're on the agenda.
Keep talking, you never.
you're right,
read the
you're right,
same
I
time.
am. I'm not looking at the minutes, sorry.
Hold on a second.
Minutes were May 2nd, yeah.
He was looking at the agenda,
Oh, God.
which has been
But
continued.
on the
Days.
minutes, it was, it was.
On the
Also,
minutes, it
Yeah.
already says continued to May 16th.
Correct, but what he was saying is it was discussed, we should continue, so really.
Yeah, you're screwing up our votes, you keep
So it could be
abstaining.
underneath there, you know, and,
Oh.
and they could say the applicant
Abstained,
requested a
abstained,
continuance
So
till
I
May
moved it
16th.
down to the bottom.
Okay, that's good.
In the italics that they-
Okay,
So you can put down the applicant requested the
Yeah,
continuance.
you could put that, yeah, yeah.
On the,
If it's known way ahead of time, then you can put
Yeah.
it on there, but this one wasn't known.
Right.
right at the night of the meeting, yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
tonight,
Well, tonight,
bailed out yesterday.
yeah, like, so on tonight's minutes,
Correct.
he's gonna.
Saber, you start to say something?
yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait till we're done. On the bottom of page 2, the last paragraph on page 2, according to the assessor's database, the gentleman's last name at 12 Andrews Point Road is Caprarella, Caprarella.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that either.
Okay.
You couldn't read the,
I fixed it, couldn't read the
Yep.
handwriting there.
Okay. That's why you left that blank in there indicating that there was more to follow. Okay. Mhm. Okay, do we see any other needs to amend the
No.
minutes?
Yeah,
Continued to May 16th. Okay, so, a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to amend, to approve the minutes of May 2nd, 2018 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimous. Okay, now we have a new hearing. For South Meadow Road. Okay. And it's Brian, right, I think?
yep.
Sign in, please.
We do have a file number on that, do we? It's it's actually 126, I wrote it right in Jim's, but 126, 536. It's always 126. That's the town. You know,
I got you.
530, 36 project.
Do we have the paperwork?
I think I corrected it on here, so we can read it.
Oh, no, we have the paperwork?
We've maps.
Oh, okay.
So, want to begin your presentation?
Sure. Good evening, Brian Grady with GAF Engineering, here for Mr. Cobb. I believe we were all there earlier today at the site inspection.
Do you want to look at the plan? Tim probably did.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Thank you.
Mr. Carver owns this property. It's a large property. He owns a number of cranberry bogs on this property as well. But he wants to construct a home for himself at this location. We visited the site today. There's an existing bog road that accesses the property. That will be the majority of the driveway to access the home. There's a small spur coming off of that going into the upland forested area where the home will be sited. So the work that's occurring within the buffer zone to the bordering wetlands is a small portion of the driveway. The remainder of the work is outside of the buffer zone. So actually, it's a driveway and some underground utilities for a utility pole that we saw today that is directly opposite the proposed driveway. So it's fairly minor work to access his home site.
So it's going to go underground all the way, yeah?
Yeah, well, we walked it today, and everything seemed to be in order,
Yeah.
so I didn't have any additional questions. Anybody else on the board?
No, that's good enough.
No, I think that one of the things that we asked was about how the driveway was going to be made, and
Yeah.
we were told gravel or sand, gravel mix, something impervious.
Right, well, yeah, the bog road is all gravel, so the driveway will be matching that, correct?
Right, so I think that,
Oh, you should stipulate that, too.
yeah, in the order of conditions.
In the
that
order of
if-
conditions, you
If
gotta
at any point they
stipulate,
want
yeah.
to change that to an impervious, they have to come back
I think you
again.
were going to say that.
But I think we talked also about if they wanted to pour a cement pad up near the garage, that was beyond the
that's outside the
65
buffer.
foot. and
Yeah,
Actually,
but
right
that
at
may
the
be, yeah.
100 foot,
That's
so,
outside the buffer, right?
That might be
you know,
outside. the
that
buffer.
wasn't a big problem, so.
I'm sure it's outside the buffer.
Yeah, I said the portion, within the 65.
Yeah.
Constructed of impervious material, crushed stone.
Make sure it's impervious, no blacktop.
And that other driveway's only gonna be an access while they're building the house, and then it's
Oh,
gonna
the
just
side
go
one,
back
yeah.
to natural again.
Right, construction vehicles, correct, yep.
Okay,
Oh.
I'm good.
All right, I'll make a motion that we close the hearing for South Meadow Road, DEP SC 536.
Okay,
Well,
126
wait a minute, whoa.
536.
But we still have to approve the 100-foot buffer area
The
and
variance.
then close the meeting for the 65-foot. Am I correct?
We have to issue a variance for the portion of the work that's in the 65.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
We have to close
we'll
Yeah.
do that after closing the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, close the hearing, then the agent will announce what we've decided, and that will include the
See
variance.
what I'm saying?
And then we vote on the variance, and then we
Alright.
vote on
Any way you
the
want to do it.
approval.
All right, so I move that we close the hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the hearing on DEP SE 126-536.
Oh, it's
South Meadow
563,
Road.
sorry. Did I write the wrong one down?
You did.
It's 563.
Oh, you brought a
Mine
pen.
says,
Did it say
536.
I wrote it, yeah.
so it should be
It's 563, yeah.
563.
Sorry about that.
oh, you dyslexic people.
It's on the order, but.
Okay.
Okay.
It's all right.
What do they call it?
So,
Dyslexic.
shall we have a vote on that? It's been moved and seconded to close the hearing for this. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed unanimous. Okay. And the agent, as far as conditions and,
Yeah, so now you have to issue the variance,
yeah.
right? For the portion within the 65. And then the only special conditions would say that the part about the driveway, and then, erosion controls, that I be notified before, when they go in.
Typical, yeah.
And markers?
Yeah, the markers along the edge of the,
Yeah, you want to have them propose it?
I don't think we talked about that.
We didn't,
We didn't mention.
at 182 Plymouth we did, but I don't
We
think
did
we
at
talked,
Plymouth
we didn't talk
too,
about
no.
post, did we?
yeah, here we did.
Not much
Do we
there.
need, I don't know if we need markers here. It's,
I was thinking maybe along here, because of this little wetland here. I mean,
Oh,
the
okay.
By the little
bog is-
isolated one?
is obvious.
It's got a
Yeah.
point.
but the small
But
wetland.
the small wetland that's northeast of the,
Gotta put a marker over there.
Sure.
Yeah, just a couple of them along,
Okay.
along that,
Is that all right?
that side of the house.
Along the one to the right hand?
Yeah, over here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got a point.
All right.
okay. All right, I'll add that.
Yeah, because that may dry up in August. You want to know it's there.
I know, all we
Yeah.
have to do is have a vernal pool in.
Whoops. We won't say that.
We'll save the salamanders.
All right, so I will make a motion that we approve the variance to allow the gravel driveway at South Meadow Road, DEP 126-563.
I'll second that motion. Re-motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to issue a variance for gravel driveway at South Meadow Road, DEP S126-563. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed unanimous. And now,
Let me say,
Now we need a motion to
to actually issue the,
issue the
Order.
order?
issue the order.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion,
okay,
that we issue the order for DEP SE 126-563,
536.
563.
Oh, wrong one, sorry. Yep, go.
I'm dyslexic.
She's got the wrong number on your copy, Jim.
It's 563.
yeah, I changed it
On- on
on
Tim, right?
Tim's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay.
Thank you.
563.
Okay,
It's my fault.
I'll second that.
so been moved and seconded to issue an order of conditions for DEP 126-563. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Pass unanimous.
Is that easy, that was?
Looked easy from here.
Sir, it's understood that they'll come before us again if they decide to put bituminous down, right?
Correct.
All right. Good.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is no neighbors, right? No neighbors. It is nice.
It is a beautiful spot.
And now we have continued hearings. And the first one is 0 Rochester Road, but I believe that is going to be
The
continued
applicant's
again.
requested a continuance till June 6th.
Okay.
All right.
They're working on a farm plan.
Request. Only June 6th?
Well, then June 6th, we'll continue it on. Something else.
Okay.
There's a limit on how many times you can continue.
They'd rather check everything.
Okay, so our next item then would be to,
That's it, right?
do we have to vote on that continuance? I suppose we should. Right, vote on the continuance, 3 to go.
Is there a limit to how many times things can be continued? There isn't
May
really.
very well be.
Because it's up to the applicant and it's,
Yeah,
he's not
or
getting a
up to us,
project.
actually, too. I mean, if it gets a little silly, 43 continuances.
He's had a few. I don't know.
Silly, this started out in November?
We'll have to look it up. Yeah, we'll have to look it
I
up
have
and
to look
see.
when the filing was.
Yeah,
I haven't got it with me, but it's been a while.
it is possible that we may say that it's just denied and you're gonna have to come back with a full application, yeah, when you actually are ready. And to stop
Me too.
the chicanery. Anyway,
I don't know of anything, but as I
okay.
say, it's usually up to the applicant, so because it's not
I
doing
know.
him any good because he's not, doesn't have a project.
Yeah, but when it gets to the, we've continued this about 8 times, I think,
Mm-hmm.
already.
Right, and it goes on the agenda, and
Not
people
more,
are
it's on the
expecting,
agenda.
you know,
People have come to.
Do you know anything about that? Is there a limit to a number of times something can be continued? Do you know?
Well, the planning board here used to have, and maybe still does have, a policy of 3 continuances.
Oh,
And they demanded the applicant comes in and explains what the problem is so the public could hear it.
oh,
And
That's not a bad idea.
That's a
It's not a
really
bad
good-
idea.
That's a
Thank
really
you.
good idea.
at times, we actually made it be re-advertised because,
Right.
you know,
people forget,
public
right,
really gets
Yeah.
stale. I
yeah.
don't know what this
And
situation.
they,
Yeah.
and they
We're
need
into
to be
the middle of
reinformed.
May. This has been going on since before January.
Well, you couldn't make them come in and explain
So-
what the real problem is.
Send them a letter.
With 2
Yeah.
hearings
That's a
a
great
month.
move.
Or if he, maybe.
Send 'em a
give him one
certified
more
letter.
chance.
That's-
if he
yeah, okay.
asks again,
We'll
then
give-
Until that date,
Okay, June 6th.
June
then.
6th, and if
Right.
he asks for another, then we'll ask him to come in
That's right. At that point, we'll say we
What
can't
date?
give you another continuance.
June 6th. June 6th.
I'll be here.
which is our next meeting,
Right.
so,
So you'll ask him, even if he asks for a continuance, to come in on June 6th to explain why?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
And if he doesn't wanna do that, then we can pull the whole thing and just start all over
Good.
again.
Yeah.
Re-notify the neighbors
Yeah.
and bring everybody up to speed. I mean, fair is fair. These, you know, neighbors are in limbo over this whole thing too.
Right.
At this time, we're going to take up a continued hearing for 0 Center Street, EP SE 126-561.
Did they
Which
revise
is
these to
a,
add the buffer zone?
Notice of intent submitted by Borrego Solar for the proposed construction of a ground-mounted solar voltaic array on the property within the 65-foot no disturb buffer, variance under the bylaw.
We got one more, John.
Oh, okay, to JP, okay.
And I gave everybody this, right? Yeah.
Are these, is that colors property? I-
Right.
I think so. He gave me plenty.
Maybe we could put out there for the.
Yes, that'd be good. I could sacrifice one of these.
I got an extra. He gave me a bunch because he thought the neighbors might want.
Just lay it out on the table.
Okay. There's a plan that you can look at.
So, looking at the diagram.
Yeah, feel free if you want to come up and sit at that table and look at it. So, you folks want to proceed? Introduce yourself again?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Evan Watson from Prime Engineering. I represent Borrego Solar. With me tonight is Josh Farkas.
Yep, Josh Farkas, developer at Borrego Solar.
And also with me is Dean Anderson. Dean Anderson from Borrego. Dean Smith. Dean Smith, I knew. Dean Smith. That's what I saw. I was like, come on.
It's almost the
Can't forget
citizen of
that.
Carver. He's been here so long.
Yeah. So he's the design engineer
Yeah.
at Borrego. I've been hired to file permits for a notice of intent and site plan review with the planning board. So just to give a quick little recap, again, we're here before you. We filed a notice of intent and a request for variance from your local bylaw of the 65-foot no-touch. We've also are in the process of putting together, we filed the application for a special permit and site plan review with the planning board. So tonight, I'd like to just bring up the fact that planning board issues and zoning and questions of that nature will definitely be discussed, if not here, at the planning board at a later time. So tonight, we want to discuss how we plan on complying with the rules and regulations of Carver and with the Wetlands Protection Act. So last time we were here, we presented the project as proposed. Shows the 0.5 megawatt system in an active cranberry bog. And we're basically citing the agricultural exemption, which allows improvements on agricultural land. It's very similar to the bog that's actually right across the street, very similar to that installation. We were asked to revise the plans to demonstrate the colored lines on the plan, which we've submitted. We've also been asked to add the replication area. The actual impact from the installation, we would consider the actual impact from the pile itself, because that would be the area that could no longer grow cranberry vines. So that is only a maximum of 27 square feet. So it's very difficult to just create 27 square feet of cranberry bog. So we've added a section on the north side of the bog to just push the berm over 3 or 4 feet, the ditch over, and create 100 square feet of replication area. So we're asking to impact 27 square feet and replicate 100 square feet.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I submitted was a letter dated May 10th, which tries to address some of the comments that we received from the commission, and as well as to compare this site to a site that's been permitted, constructed, and performing in the town. I don't want to presume to say that you permitted this site, so therefore you have to approve this site. What I'm trying to do is just give you guys a comfort level and show an example of something that's in town, easy to see, and something that's performing the way that we're proposing to perform. Again, in this case, it's an existing cranberry farm that's been in operation forever. He's actively increased the size of his bogs, maintained them, changed his farming methods. This is what he does. This is what the landowner, Ed Silva, does. It's not really a part-time thing for him. This is his livelihood, and he's here to stay. So that's why he's proposing the solar, is to help him continue his farming operation. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, just go through the report that I put together. So in December of 2011, the commission voted unanimously to issue an order of conditions for the site across the street on Main Street. We'll call it the Main Street installation. And that site was 1.1 megawatts of solar panels. It was on a driven post racking system. The leading edge of the racking was 3 feet above the bog, and the panels were spaced 10 feet apart from one another. So in comparison, our site here, we have 0.5 megawatt of installation, again, 3 feet above the bog, but we have 14.3 feet of spacing in between. So 43% more spacing than the other installation. For that site, at the time, it was not required to have a site plan review, but we still were required to have a notice of intent, and we were still required to have a variance from the local bylaw. And we were still required to do replication from the driven piles. I have copies of this report too, if there's people in the audience that want to read too, or follow along what we're going through, so you can just. So as previously stated, they did grant a order of conditions, and almost immediately afterwards, the DEP appealed the decision. And they were citing that the panels may diminish and shade the cranberry bogs, and that we would have greater than 5,000 square feet wetland impact. We met on site, we had a meeting with DEP, we ran through everything, and the DEP, after careful review, issued a letter which withdrew their appeal. And they cited the agricultural exemption, saying that it will protect the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act based on the information provided, because the shading impacts may result in a change in commodity from cranberries to vines, but a change in commodity is exempt under the Act as normal improvement of land and agriculture. So again, we're modeling this installation after that. The vines that he has planted there are, thank you. So it's different than the type of vines he has in the rest of his bog, and that's really why he's looking at this spot for the installation. In order to upgrade that bog, he basically would have to rip everything out, wait 3 to 5 years for the vines to grow back and start producing, et cetera. So the vines, the how vines there are still valuable to people who want to start like a dry pick type bog, so he could sell it to them. The other option that he has, and again, it doesn't have to be just selling cranberry vines, it's for use in a commercial way. So he could also transplant some of his other vines to that bog and use it as an incubator. Should some of these areas get diseased or damaged, he could then transplant it over to his other bogs. And that's different than what was in the other one. So it's, in this case, it would be much easier for Ed to ensure that he was using that field in a commercial way for agriculture. So more similarities, and then the performance of the bog across the street here. Obviously, there's a concern if you have plants that want to be in the sun to grow, and you place a solar panel above them, what is going to happen to them? It's intuitive to think that they will die, right? It's that they're being shaded. So I took a couple pictures from the school property, and you can see the cranberry bog with the solar panels on it. Looks just like a cranberry bog everywhere else. And then
I'm gonna have to
Yep.
interrupt, excuse me, through the chair, Mr. Chairman. We go through this at every single hearing, and we've made it a motion now and a practice that we're all done listening to precedents that are set. There was a variance issued to produce that solar field down there, and it has nothing to do with this project. It's a variance that's issued for that purpose. It's not a variance that's gonna tie into this purpose. We're purposely writing conditions now that state it's a standalone variance. And you're giving us rhyme and reason why there's a precedent that's set here.
Because he's intending to ask for the same sort of variance.
Oh, you know,
That's why he's producing, I think this is why his documentation.
but he's got photographs of that Main Street all over down in
Yeah,
here.
so
So,
He
I see it as germane,
I yield to you, sir.
I will too to the chair, but that's my opinion.
what he's, the gentleman's saying is that, he's going over the history of the paddock bog, let us call that, and for the reason that he's going to be asking for the same sort of thing to be granted for the Silva bog.
But what he is saying, Chair, is that what he's saying is incorrect. You know, he took photographs from off the property, not on the property. We were all there a week ago going through that property.
Yes.
And everything underneath the line where where all the structure is held, under every one of them, 1 foot wide, all the way through, everything was dead. Nothing was growing there.
Right.
And the landowner said, well, maybe the vines will grow through that section to the other side, but everything underneath there was dead. That's all I'm saying, sir.
I actually heard him say that the vines under the panels were growing better than the ones in the
Some
space.
were, yeah, but he said on the line where all the structure is, it's about 1 foot wide, everything was dead. On
Right
every
under the
on
posts.
every row, all the way down. Everything was dead. I noted that to our conservation officer.
And he actually was hoping that it would come back green, but
It'll never come back,
it was pretty crunchy under our feet.
yeah.
And some of it was damage, remember, from the equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was,
we figured
that was in the
was-
open air, and I took that into consideration. I'm just talking about the places that weren't touched, that were dead.
Well,
That's all I have to
Did you see
say.
them
But I want to listen to the rest of this gentleman's presentation, and maybe he has a better idea.
yeah, if I could continue,
Certainly.
again, it's not, I want to be clear that it's not my intent to tell the board, you gave it to this guy, you owe the same thing to us.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
Right, but the intent is to basically present the board with some information to say that this is not a new idea, in that it's been done before, and to give perhaps a comfort level for what this would then look like based off of what we've done there. And to the type of treatment that we could expect from DEP should we go forward from here, from this process. I would fully expect the same treatment from the department, that they would then step in. In their decision, they actually said this in no way sets a precedent, and every case will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And I'm fully expecting the same treatment from the board and from the department, that everything is reviewed on the merits of this particular case.
When you're finished with your presentation, I would like to address that issue, but go ahead.
Sure. So again, looking at the bog, there's areas that are dry. He's reduced the amount of irrigation that he's done out there. The areas underneath the panels appear to me to be thriving better than the areas in between. It does appear that there is an area that they trenched through the middle, and I think that the area you might be talking about is the area where they installed the conduit that he had not repaired yet and put new vines. But it is the case that the solar panels themselves are not shading the vines to the point that they are dying. It might mean that he needs to modify, and again, he's learning too. So it's a case where he needs to adjust his irrigation to make sure that he's keeping the vines that are drying out a little more healthy. And again, for this particular bog, it's not the only bog that's there. It's part of a larger farming operation, and it would be easy for him to either use that bog to incubate new vines or to sell the actual vines. But the important part is to use it for a agricultural commodity in a commercial manner. So, as I said, I'm concluding here, and the conclusion of the letter is we believe that the project as presented on its own merits would be a good project. Satisfies the Wetlands Protection Act under the agricultural exemption and should qualify for a variance from your local bylaw. And when comparing to the other site in town that's been permitted, we're just basically comparing, not to say that it's automatic that we should get approval, but we're spacing the panels farther apart. We have a smaller installation, and we have less impact to the wetland and less impervious area overall. So I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any other information that you might have.
All right. Yes, I want to get back to the point in your letter that where you basically, and you mentioned it, you said, based on the similarities of the two projects, we would expect Mass DEP to have the same opinion. Now, this opinion was rendered in 2012 from the DEP regarding the paddock bog. On September 23rd of last year, the DEP wetlands program policy was sent out to everybody, and this would would supersede anything
Prior orders, yes.
that was done beforehand. And on under citing photovoltaic systems, the second sentence says, placement of photovoltaic systems within jurisdictional wetlands is highly discouraged. Now, when I was a teenager and my father told me that hanging out with a certain group of people was highly discouraged, I knew what he meant. But this to me is a gray area in the DEP. And it concerns me that they are saying that something that you're proposing is highly discouraged. Now, this obviously was not here in 2012 when the paddock bog was approved, and which kind of makes it apples and oranges, in my opinion. So it seems to me that I, myself personally, and probably us as a board, would like to get a little bit more black and white from the DEP regarding what exactly this means. My feeling is that whichever way we as a board vote tonight, the person who loses will appeal. And in a sense, I think, as far as I'm concerned, that's what I would be looking for. I would looking for it to be appealed somehow back to the DEP so they can come up with more detailed information as to exactly what they mean. Because although you're the first of doing this since these rulings were put out in September, you certainly won't be the last. And we, as a board, need to know, moving forward, what is allowable and what is not allowable. So from that standpoint, just based on this one line in here, I'm very wary about approving something that that I believe goes against the intent of their recent rulings.
So,
I would like to, after you're done, are you completed?
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. I want to add to this issue. This bog, since everything's been installed, it's been 5, 6 years now since everything's been installed down there. I don't know, we all walked down there, and all I heard was, well, the electrician rode over this section, that's why nothing's growing. Well, that was 4 years ago, and there's still nothing growing? I mean, there are huge bare areas all over the place down there. You can go look for yourself. I don't know where you were taking your pictures from, but you gotta look at it. And from a fence on the other side of, by the new school area, there's no way to look at that bog. You go down there, you look underneath you look directly underneath, there's nothing growing. There are whole open areas, there's nothing growing. And all I hear is, oh, the electricians ran over with their bikes and stuff. That was 4 years ago, and there's still nothing growing. So I don't see how it works.
May I just add to that? In fairness to Mr. Paddock, he did say that towards the end of last growing season, he was out of town, and something happened with his irrigation.
I understand that.
And he invited us back in July to look at it again.
Right,
And he's-
and which we're gonna go back in July, because this
So-
thing's still on, and that's the only thing I wanted to bring up. This is not a completed issue yet. This is still under study by us as to whether it'll even work. And as far as I can see so far, it doesn't look good. I mean, Mr. Paddock did invite us back in July, and that's where we're gonna go, but what I saw wasn't due to lack of water, because you're down to sand. I mean, there's nothing. There's not even dead roots. So, yes, go ahead.
just to respond to a couple of the points that you both brought up. Number one, Borrego did not install that project across the street, so we can't speak exactly to how, I'd love to say.
Doesn't matter.
Sure, no, I'd love to comment on maybe the area that's not growing. That being number one. Number two, I'm far from a cranberry farmer, but in my conversations with Ed Silva and, who is the landowner on this property, regrowing cranberry vines, from what I've gathered from the research I've done and the folks that I've talked to, takes several years.
This is 4 years. I mean, there's not even
Yeah.
a root, so. you
Sure,
know.
so whether it's from the installation or from a lack of a water drought or an irrigation issue or something like that, I'm not trying to turn that into a gray area, but it's not an easy thing to, when these things go, to bring them back. So,
The
This
place down
wasn't
there
a
looks
dead
bad.
bog to start with.
No.
This was a living bog. when
This
they
was a
bought the
healthy
solar
bog
on
when they
it.
started.
So
Now you look at it, it's a
You
disaster.
can't say it takes 4 years to grow back vines. These vines were already growing in place when the solar panels went down. So nothing was regerminated. There wasn't a wait and see on a brand-new sanded bog that got planted.
But we are going back in July.
We are going back in July.
But I don't expect to see the dead areas with anything in them. I really don't.
I have to say that I think none of the commission members here are that experienced to be
what?
able to tell. And what we would have to do is bring in somebody, say like Peter Fletcher, to reanalyze the bog and reanalyze the condition of the vegetation there. I didn't think it looked that bad, but it certainly is not flourishing. So that's the whole thing. We had hoped that it would be in much better shape than it is, and could then serve as a way for a farmer to possibly benefit from the two sources of income. And that hasn't happened so far. We have another project that we're trying something on like that, so.
okay. And then to the second point, Mr. Moore, in regards to DEP and their position, because we also read that same sentence that you pointed out, and actually we met with them several months back, a few months before submitting with the town, to go in there and basically try and understand this. And we said, hey, we've seen a project in Carver that's been approved. We have a handful of projects that kind of fit that criteria, on the agricultural side of things, whether it's, animals grazing in a field or cranberries, whatever it may be. It was an informal meeting, no minutes were recorded, nothing official, but we left that meeting and we decided not to pursue a couple other projects, but we felt confident enough to pursue this project.
Because it's in Carver.
No, because it's a cranberry bog.
Okay.
We've been to Carver before, and we
Well-
do not have that expectation.
Well,
We never should have approved the first one.
perhaps for my own edification, I would like there to be some kind of minutes.
Yep.
And something like that official.
Sure.
That gives me a little bit more information than highly discouraged.
Correct.
That opens up a whole realm of what
Yeah.
is and is not allowable.
And I understand that. And the second piece, when we did file our notice of intent with DEP for this project and their response, Evan can probably speak to the details of what was on their response, but it didn't make reference to having an objection. Evan, maybe you want to take that with exactly what that said.
Yeah, so they didn't, every time that you submit a notice of intent to the town, it gets copied to DEP, and they review and issue some comments. So they basically, their comment was, if you have wetland impact, that you make sure you replicate in kind. They did not cite shading impacts, et cetera. I'm also familiar with the policy that you came out with, and I really like the policy because it helps us understand where DEP is at with both impacting in wetlands and with stormwater, which we haven't had before, so it's very helpful. In there, they talk about why is it bad to have solar in wetlands, and they primarily talk about the shading impact of the panels on the wetland itself, which you can understand changes the type of vegetation there, et cetera. That's the exact reason why they appealed last time, is they were concerned about the impact from the shading. And again, because it did not completely destroy the wetland, it would change the commodity type from berries to vines, that it would then be allowed under the agricultural exemption. And I agree, if this was a bog that had gone to fallow, had not been active for a period of 5 years, did not have a USDA farm plan, then it would not fall under that exemption, under agriculture. If, we've tried permitting projects in other communities of that nature and have not been successful because it does not make sense and it does not meet the agricultural exemption. In this case, it's an active farm, USDA farm plan, has been active, has not gone fallow for a period of more than 5 years, and we believe it meets those criteria.
It just seemed, through the chair, if I may, it just seems to me that the DEP is gonna give the go-ahead. because
I don't know if they'll
there's
give the
other-
go-ahead.
Well, there's other agencies that need to sign off on it. From what we're looking at in the requirements, it doesn't really say very much.
When they issue the file number.
Kind of gives you the file number, and it's up to the Conservation Commission. I think the DEP is the go-back-to place if you don't get what you want. But I don't think the DEP comes out and tries to dictate until the local board makes the decision.
Right, yeah.
Al, we also have home rules, so
Well, that's true, but we
have home rule.
have home rule, but the state supersedes our home rule.
Right.
I have to invoke our rule.
So, yeah, there are a number of other agricultural projects in Massachusetts that I'm aware of, where solar panels are in 10-foot high posts and so on, and cattle are grazing underneath them, and the grass that they're grazing on is growing fairly actively and working. But in our one case, the bog that we had hoped would flourish has not. So it's a real question as to whether this type of thing will work. And so we have to just really see. maybe I would like to just suggest that we hold off on this until the reinspection in July. And by then, hopefully, we'll have a better idea.
I object to that, sir. I'd like to go to a vote.
Yeah, I
I need
do too.
I need a second on that.
I'll second that.
All right, going for a vote.
I just don't want to drag it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have the right to object. I just want to comment that, you know, if the fate of our project is based upon the current performance of a bog that we've never been in at Borrego,
Right.
that concerns me a little bit, that could be the bearing of it. I would ask that potentially an order of conditions be provided. Maybe it's a construction plan that mitigates certain, certain access or ways about the bog during the project. But frankly, I'm a little nervous with that the result of that might have been based on how the project was installed or how it's been cared for since it was installed. And those are a couple things that are out of our control. So I'd ask you to tighten the reins up on us and how we go about our project, rather than hang us on how another one has
Because
held
of
up.
our lack of certainty as to how
Yeah.
the other one is working out. I might suggest that you consider withdrawing without prejudice your application and to see whether in July we have a different, attitude towards it. Different set of references, different set of information from the paddock bog.
Mr. Chairman, I have to agree with our other commission members that I think that is in effect kicking the can down the road.
It is.
And what I would like to establish is a vote either yay or nay, so
On the
that,
present, on.
that
Yeah.
either side will start an appeal process which gives more clarity
Right.
to what this actual ruling means. As this gentleman said, the paddock bog is really irrelevant to what's happening at Center Street. It's different circumstances to a certain extent.
Yes, to a certain extent.
And I want to say, I'm all for solar. I really am. I truly am. I have too many trees in my house, so I can't have it on my roof, but a couple more storms, that may not be the case. But from the standpoint of what's coming in the future for the town of Carver, you may have other things coming up for your company. There are certainly other solar companies. There are certainly a lot of bogs and growers who are looking to make money through different income streams. So I would like to have this at least come to a decision tonight so that the appeal process, one way or the other, is brought to the DEP so they can give more clarity as to what exactly highly discouraged means.
And I agree with you up to one point, and that is that we don't, if these gentlemen go to DEP after our objection, they are granted on a superseding order of conditions, they can go ahead. What I'd like to do is also invoke the home rule, 65-foot home rule, to ensure that they cannot go ahead until they come back to us. And until we find out what's going on in that bog down the street. Because that bog down the street, it's 4 years and that thing there was nothing growing, What do you think,
You've
Jeff?
just stated two conflicting things. First of all, that what's happening on that bog down the street doesn't apply. And then
Well, I
secondly,
don't agree with that.
Oh, it does apply. So-
Sam, I think it does apply to what's gonna happen. I really do. If you start doing these passive solars on every bog in town, and they all start looking like that, that's not very good for us, for sure.
Yes, I agree.
So this is what I'm trying to get away from, is I want to see what happens in July, see if that bog does improve.
Right, but you're not willing to continue it till then. So what
I am not willing to continue to that. I'd rather them go to the state, but we invoke home rule so they can reapply on a new NOI.
I don't think that home rule applies here. I think that we have to
It's 65
deny
foot,
the
Jim.
application. No,
It's a 65-foot, of course it applies.
65
I think,
foot.
if-
Once we
well,
kick
no,
it
but I
down the
think,
road.
if I'm right, I think if you appeal to DP can address, everything in the Wetlands Protection Act, but they can't address our bylaw.
That's right, they
difference,
can't
the difference
override our
between
bylaw.
bylaw and the state.
But if we don't invoke
So I think that
it-
would have to be appealed to civil court. I think I'm right on that.
Right.
Is it right? If
Yes.
it's a bylaw, it goes to a
Right.
different.
And if we
So
don't
you-
invoke that
so
65 foot,
Because
they can
DEP's
get
gonna stand
overridden.
there and they're gonna say, well, okay, with the Wetlands Protection Act, we're good. But you still have a 65-foot no disturb, under the bylaw, so
Right.
that would have to, they wouldn't be able to say anything about that. They'd have to say, you gotta go to
We have to
civil court.
invoke
And
Yeah,
how
to
does,
make
how
sure
does
they
that
come
come
back.
into play with this project? The 65-foot,
Well, is this
Oh,
all
yeah.
in the oh, well,
It's in
it's
there.
outside the 65. Is it outside 65?
Well, it's on a wetland. The whole thing's on a wetland.
yeah, it's right.
Oh, things
Yeah,
are
we're
well,
within-
65 foot.
Yeah.
So they
Our
have-
application
so
is-
we-
yeah.
We invoke.
Right.
So the
They
bottom
need a
line-
variance to
But I
do
think
it,
the
yes.
bottom line is if we,
Sorry.
if we vote on this and deny it, they're gonna go to DEP, or they're not gonna go. I mean, you guys might.
They're
just
gonna go.
Put your hat in your
They're
hand and go
gonna go.
home. I tend to doubt that.
Tim, please.
They'll appeal it, and whatever DEP comes up with, they're still gonna have to come back.
Not necessarily, a superseding order, they can
Well, are they not
continue
gonna have
without
to go to
us.
planning?
Still have to go to planning.
Yes, we do, yes.
On a superseding order, they don't have to come back to us.
But the DEP would issue a ruling that would most likely have more detail.
Right, and
And
it would
something that we
clarify-
can use
Which I don't have
going
a problem
forward.
with, but I want to make sure that
And you could
they
still
still
agree with
come back
DEP.
to us.
I don't think we can have it both ways.
Right.
If I may, so there's two things that we're applying for. One is for a notice of intent, which is from the Wetlands Protection Act. And the other is the variance for the 65-foot no-touch zone in your wetland bylaw. So if it were the case that you were to vote and it was either approved or denied, and it was appealed, it would then go to DEP. If they then continued the appeal, they would issue a superseding order of conditions.
Right.
Which is similar to what your order of conditions would do. However, it would then take any interaction of the Conservation Commission away, and everything would be dealt with the DEP. But because you guys have a local bylaw in place, acting upon that bylaw would still have us come to you.
That's right.
So if you could vote to approve both the variance and the wetlands, the notice of intent, and then we would go on our way with an order of conditions. You could vote to deny the request for variance and the order of conditions. And our recourse would then be to appeal to DEP and then appeal to Superior Court for, I guess it would be for some type of discrimination of why our project is any different than other projects that have been granted a variance. The other option that you could do is you could grant the request for a variance for 65-foot no disturb zone with conditions, and deny the notice of intent, which would then cause an appeal to DEP for superseding order of conditions, but then would keep if we were to achieve that, and you granted the 65-foot no disturb zone, it would keep control on your board, because you would then have conditions that you could put forth. If it was appealed to Superior Court,
I don't want any conditions.
then it would basically take it all out of the hands, and the court and DEP would have all conditions for that.
For this particular project.
For this particular project, it wouldn't be a precedent.
It would establish what the DEP guidelines are for any projects that would come before us further down the road.
Right,
It would give us
So-
more information to act as a commission.
Yes.
right. So the tricky part is, again, there's the two different permits, and if they're both denied, and then they're both appealed, and it's both succeeds in that appeal, then all hands from the Conservation Commission are then taken away. So, if we were to vote on the variance and the notice of intent, the department could issue a superseding order of conditions, and then the
We got it.
commission,
Yeah, got
could
it,
keep
got
on
it,
the
got it.
65-foot if you voted yes.
I'd like to ask the agent what she thinks of that.
So if they don't issue a variance, then you really don't have a project.
We deny a variance.
If you don't want, if you don't want to issue a
Brooke has
variance,
the
I'm
floor.
listening.
Brooke has the
I'm
floor.
asking.
Please keep quiet. Brooke has the floor.
that's what I wasn't sure of. So if you guys don't issue a variance for the work within the 65, then they don't have a project because they're in the well.
That's right.
So there's really no,
We'd have to appeal the Superior, we'd have to appeal the
you have to
land
appeal
court, yeah.
that to, okay, so that's kind of what I had said before, yeah.
I think Mr. Hunter wanted to say something too.
No, I just.
Do we have anybody in the,
Does that make sense?
anybody out in the public want
Point of
to
order,
address
Mr.
this?
Chair, is that it is a public hearing, that's all.
Yeah.
Before you start voting on anything.
Right.
Yeah, I was just, my next thing was to see if there was,
I have
if the
nothing to
chair would
say.
check.
Yeah.
Okay, now, have we said all that we want to say at the
I
moment?
don't want to make sure that the public has something
Yeah,
to say.
before.
Have we said all
Closed it.
that we want to say at this, up to this point?
I just to the point that this gentleman was making about the DEP making the ruling, and then that, whatever the DEP says on this particular project would be, would be the final. I personally don't have a problem with that. If the DEP says, yes, it's a go, and here's why, I'm fine with that. But then it will tell us why yes was the right answer.
Right.
Yes.
This doesn't.
Right.
That's right.
So that's, I mean, I'm not against the project. I don't want to be slapped on the hands by the DEP if we say yes, and they say, well, you can't do this. Didn't you read this thing from September? So this says highly discouraged, and that to me is
Yep.
as close to no as you can
Yeah.
get, but that's
At
my
this-
opinion.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask if there's anybody at the hearing that would like to speak about this.
No. Oh, here we go.
I would prefer not to speak to any project, but I do want to speak to the solar issue to the commission if it would be possible.
Or do you
At
want
some
to,
point.
you don't want to do it on this? You want to wait till this meeting is over and then come
Well,
forth?
if it's a citizen participation or a grower participation or concern, I'd like to address you folks.
Well, is there anybody who has a position or comments regarding this particular application?
I just want to reiterate, Mark Townsend, 10 Harvest View Way. I just want to reiterate what I said at the last hearing. I'm not against solar, but I'm against solar wetland bogs. I think this is an inappropriate place for it, and I just want to pass on that several of my neighbors wanted to be here. They had conflicts, they couldn't make it, so the board is aware.
Yeah, Nancy Gonzalez, I'm on Rochester Road, resident Carver. I just wanted to state that I am opposed also to solar arrays being placed in wetlands. But I think there's just not enough known what damage can be done in the future to the water table, to the flora, the fauna. I think it's just the wrong place for them.
Okay. Now, then, we have no further comments regarding this particular case. So, Mr. Ward, did you want to, the question about solar in general, or?
Do you want me to talk to you now
Yes.
or
Yeah, go ahead.
after you?
Well, I would think that.
We should
Yeah,
vote on this.
Vote on this, and then.
Well, okay.
Yeah, let's
We'll
vote on
certainly
this.
let Mr. Ward, we'd love to hear his comments, because he's very knowledgeable in this, but I don't think anything he says is.
Gonna make up our mind on
Not
this,
germane
yeah.
to this particular issue.
Yeah. If
Okay.
you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
That would be fine with me, so.
So we're a motion to close the hearing be
Yeah.
appropriate? I would make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the hearing on the Zero Center Street solar application. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimously. Okay, now, so then, do we have a motion to handle the application one way or another?
But you want to,
Approve or deny?
I think I'd like to see a motion, if I may, through the chair. I think I prefer, just for clarification on the voting 500, so forth and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
on. I think we'd be better off to make a motion to approve and then let that motion fail or succeed.
Yes.
As opposed to, a motion to deny, and then as we
Yeah.
try to figure out
Okay.
how the numbers work, so
Sure,
that
okay.
it's confusing.
Okay, motion
So-
to approve. Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we approve the application for 0 Center Street, DEP number SE 126561. As drawn on the plans,
As presented.
as presented.
All right.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to issue an approval for this application, the order of conditions it would be, for 0 Center Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say
Aye.
nay.
Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
So we have,
0,
I'm abstaining, so we've got 0 and
Three.
3.
032.
032.
But he abstains.
You abstained, right, so it's 0,
I'm
3.
abstaining too.
0 in
Zero,
favor,
three, two.
3
Oh.
against, 2 abstain.
Right, there you go.
Right?
Okay, yep,
032. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, that,
But we
What's
gotta,
that?
we have to, Mr. Chair, do we have to work on a 65-foot because it's part of the whole project? They've got a 65-foot, you
no,
gotta,
this,
The whole thing failed.
So you
it's been,
basically, yeah.
yeah,
but
it's
you
been
still have
disproved.
to,
So, but you're not issuing the variance because,
There's no variance to issue.
yeah, because it failed. I mean, the whole thing is,
okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't think
Yes.
that would
I
be
just
up to
wanna
the
make
next
sure
guy.
they come, I'm so concerned about that project down the street and what I saw over there, that I
Down
just
the
don't want
street
it to
next
happen
door.
all over Carver.
Okay.
Jim, I just don't
Paddock
want to see it
Bob.
all over Carver.
Right,
That's all.
so,
Okay.
So,
Uh,
may I ask, so that was a vote for both the notice of intent and the
Yes.
variance request?
Yes, that's right, yeah, the variance was simply be part of the notice, but it was, both were denied.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Maybe by July, we'll have better information, you'll have better information, we'll see.
I really do hope that it's got to improve. If I see it like that in July, it's terrible.
Again, I'd say that's not really part of this. I'm hoping that this goes
Oh, I
back to
understand what
the
you're after.
DEA and that they
That'd be nice.
give more detail about what is and what is not acceptable, because this is not the first time we're going to go through this.
that's right.
Oh, it's coming.
All right, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If you know, if this were to come back
the
in some
COC for
way,
the-
shape, or form, would we again be notified as butters?
Yes, it will be a new hearing,
Would be a whole new hearing?
Hearing, because it's been denied, so yeah, it'll be a whole new hearing.
yeah.
How about the DEP hearing? Would we be notified if that was to take place?
Well, let
No.
me think.
Well, I don't know, they do not have to inform abutters that they're going to
Probably
DEP.
not.
Okay.
They don't
I
have to
can
do
let you
that.
know. I mean, I can let you know if you.
But regardless of what DEP says, they still have to go back to plan.
Okay.
So you haven't even gone to planning
They,
yet.
they won't even go now, probably.
Well, DEP can't circumvent
People
plan.
No,
talking,
but they
All
won't.
right, well, I appreciate it. Thank you. for
Thank
the
you.
information.
I mean, he wouldn't get, no, he wouldn't get notified about the DEP stuff. He's not a butter appealing it.
right.
Right, so, I mean, I can let him know, but he might not even,
All
But
right,
we'll-
let's,
does he have a right to go?
Actually, he would have a right to go, but finding out about it is a challenge.
I mean, I could
Could ask,
certainly,
he could tell you and ask him to include it.
Yeah.
I can see that. Documents about it.
or I could certainly let him know.
that's
Well,
what
we
it's for.
can.
Yeah,
It's difficult. There might very well be held in Boston. Yeah.
oh, no, I think he'll come here, bro. I would think he'd come.
I don't know, a lot of our hearings have ended up there, some of the big questions we've had.
They either, because they, usually the first stage of the superseding, they'll do the site, and then it goes to Boston, like for an adjudicatory hearing.
Yeah. They're up right near downtown Crossing.
Yeah, because you'd think they'd want to come and at least look at it, and,
You would think so.
You want to talk to Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Have you seen Mr. Wood?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Ward like to talk to us.
Mr. Wood,
May I address?
You have the floor, sir.
have the floor.
Can I come over?
Excuse me, please. This idea of everybody talking at once It's got to stop. Okay, we got to have a little more order. Mr. Ward, please address the group.
Here's your gavel.
Please sign in, too.
I've signed in. My name is Dick Ward. My address is 20 West Street, and I am a cranberry grower. And I have addressed 4 of you folks about us in the solar part. I call my farm a cranberry solar farm. I don't want to get into the issue of the wetlands versus not, and upland bogs versus whatever. My concern is that people out there, and maybe a review quick of where we in the cranberry industry stand. Our prices in cranberries have been so depressed over the past 5 years that we can't grow cranberries, and we don't get enough income to even warrant it. Why does this guy keep doing it? I'm too old to do anything else, I guess. That question has come up. Somebody said, why don't you grow another crop? Well, cranberries are so acidic, the soil and such, that most other crops wouldn't grow there. Blueberries, and my son from USDA informed me today that there's a surplus in the blueberry industry, which has depressed their prices also. So what I'm saying is that I have 5 acres now of solar, and I have 11.5 acres of cranberries. The solar monies are going to help with my taxes and my bills to the point where I can keep growing cranberries. If I was not able to have the solar, then I would have been taking money from my retirement, and my son said, Dad, we're probably looking at least 5 years before we come back up at all, and he said he didn't know. But the problem is, of course, new varieties, production is so much higher that me, as a state average producer, I can't compete with that, and whether that's going to become a possibility. If it wasn't for Quebec, we wouldn't have this surplus. They produce more cranberries than Massachusetts now, and they're the ones that push the nation and the world supply of cranberries over that surplus, and that's what depressed the prices. Now, we as a town, I'm paying the same taxes practically as before the solar came in. My total tax bill is roughly the same this year, even though that they pulled that 5 acres out of 61A. But the town is getting $16,500 from that 5 acre solar panel as personal property. So I am paying the same taxes, and the town is getting $16,500 in lieu of taxes. So the town is more than doubled in its financial advantage on this project. If I didn't do this solar project, I would be in a position in a year or 2 or 3 where I would have to consider selling my property. And I had an offer from Buzz Artiano a few years ago to buy that property and do condos on it. And I do not want to do that. I want to be a farmer, and so does my son. So that is kind of, I'm looking at several cranberry growers that are going to be in that situation. And so to keep our rural character, I think that moving towards solar is going to help our town continue to have people like me. I have 50 acres. I have 5 acres of solar. I have 12 acres of cranberries now. And I want to keep growing cranberries. So, and I would like to try a small experiment to see if we raise the panels way up, and I have a young lady that differs with me on it, but I have talked to people about raising them up and spreading them apart, and they rotate. And there may be the possibility not to grow vines, but to grow berries. That's what I would want to do. So, but that would have to be a small-scale trial thing, because I'm
I'd
not,
like to see that.
I don't know.
I'd like to see that.
Pilot project, like the floating one.
See that.
But anyway, that's what I wanted to throw, and I was looking forward to the fact that people out there, and I would hear me. I am sad that more Cranberry people haven't come in and appealed to you folks with information like this. And I'm going to tell the Growers Association, get your butt over to the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission and do a little presentation. So, anyway.
Right.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Be a time, sir.
Thank you.
We have, the Conservation Commission has been involved in efforts to benefit the cranberry growers as far as keeping them alive. And one other project that the wards are involved in is the question of floating solar on a cranberry reservoir. And we're still uncertain about what the situation is with that, but it's a possibility that that will get
I
approved.
would love to see that.
And it's, so,
Yeah, I'd like to see them floating. I'd like
Yeah.
to see how that worked out.
We're still waiting for that one on
Yes.
purchase, right?
That's
Didn't
right,
they say
that's
they
the
were gonna
one.
pull out or something? What's
but
going on with that?
we have to see. Now, the other thing is that we have other people that are putting in smaller solar areas that are not actually on bogs, but they're in the
They're next
upland
to the
area.
bogs,
They're
yeah.
next to bogs, yeah. So that's another way in which they can create an income, bring in their own electricity, for instance. And the whole idea is to avoid turning cranberry bogs into house lots.
Well,
And to
yeah,
avoid,
Jim, I agree with you to a point.
and I was,
To a point, I agree with you, absolutely. Well, doesn't matter.
I was gonna say, and I think to avoid having to go into forests and cut trees to open up an area to put solar. I
Right.
mean, I'd rather see them on open areas like bogs or
Yeah.
next to bogs, as opposed to going into wooded areas like, the one on Federal Road and cutting all the
Right.
trees. So,
In the same,
Right.
in the same spirit that you
I
want
have to sign anyway.
in the same spirit that you all want these solar panels, there's one thing we have to remember is that there are people that have to live in this town too. That's right. And I think solar panels are absolutely a necessity of the future, for sure. But I don't think that they should be an obstruction to the people who live in the town. And that's one thing that has me concerned, is that, you're starting to, putting these solar panels right in people's backyards, and they have to, that's not what they bought. I believe that if there was a solar panel put up, and then people moved in after, too bad for them. But I don't believe that we should, or people, never mind the Conservation Commission, as in general, I don't believe that we should allow people just to randomly throw up fields of passive solar without taking into consideration the abutting people.
Yes, well, that's
That's the
what
one thing that drives
which the
me.
planning board has.
The setbacks.
Well, and I understand the
Yeah.
planning board has that, but it's like, I didn't want to get in your face tonight about this presentation, Jim. I just saw that field down there the other day, and I said, this is 4 years old and it looks like this. I said, that's
It's not doing what we had hoped to do.
No, it's terrible.
And he
if
did
that-
say the thing
if
about
they
the
do this,
irrigation. He did say that.
if this happens to every wetlands bog that we have, I mean, that's gonna be bad.
Well, it won't happen to everyone.
Well, we don't know, because I'm looking at this one saying that's the only one so far, and it looks like hell. That's the only thing that has me going, Jim. If we can get that straightened out, say July we come down and that's pristine, hey, I'm on board.
And I don't know of any other town that has one like that. You?
No, there isn't, we don't have another
It's the
one.
only one. I mean, I don't know of any other towns that have solar
Yeah.
panels.
Tell you
You know
what, if
what I
I
mean, to
were
see
the
if they-
cranberry growers, I'd be
see if
down
they
there
work.
helping that guy make sure that sucker grew.
Now you got them mad. See what you did? Now you got them all mad.
Well, the thing is that we have to find ways to try and make that industry succeed in that, because the alternative is that the land will be used for houses.
Yeah.
I know.
And that means another elementary school, and maybe another one after that.
Right.
We don't have a water
We don't have
supply
the money for
necessary
that.
for them.
for
We,
sure.
we don't have roads available for them. It could be a bloody disaster.
Let's go,
I'm
let's
all
go,
in favor of
let's go
solar.
put in some 55 or older communities. We don't have to worry about anything.
I don't think anybody,
Put the building on top of the bog,
I don't
obviously.
like solar in the wetlands.
I don't think anybody on this board is blind to what the growers are going through.
Right.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
no,
we
we're not-
certainly
no.
understand that.
No,
Solar is the future. There, in my opinion, there's no question about it. But like anything, there have to be rules. And the department that sets the rules has to make those rules clear.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree with you,
And-
DEP has to be
and
sharper with their no.
Once they set the rules and say, this is what can happen, and that's what can't happen, then we have our marching orders.
I don't think the DEP is gonna set that rule. I
Well,
think they're gonna look at it
because
that
it-
every instance is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
I
because if
think
you
they're
look at the
gonna have
last.
to, Alan. So-
That's why they left
Yeah.
it so
Well,
vague.
but if you look at the last sentence in the one, Paddock's decision, it does say, that this doesn't mean that this is gonna happen for every project. It does kind of say that.
I wasn't here when Mike
Wasn't
Paddock's
here.
But
bought
stuff that
it,
he submitted that there.
but was there this?
Right, well, it was
No.
prior, yes, it was prior to those.
that.
It was prior to this.
So why did they write those?
So why did they write
I
this?
know, I know. Yeah,
And what does it mean?
I think they use the word strongly discourage simply because they wanna still allow the city and town to make their own decision.
No, I don't think so. I think they're trying to discourage it otherwise.
I think, yeah,
But I think that
Gives
we
us the
may
power
see,
to override it, though.
yeah.
I think we may see statewide a policy change that overrides the attitudes at DEP. There are people within DEP who came down, for instance, about the floating solar project, and they said there'll be no more, enforcement constricting that project. So we're beginning to get a little progress
So they're
there.
probably gonna allow that one. I would
And you
think.
sold me on it. I was against
Yeah.
it till I went down and saw it.
It's
And I like that floating solar.
anybody that has put in a reservoir that is not a pre-existing wetland, it's possible they can use this,
I
the
don't have a
floating
problem
solar
with
there.
that. I don't have a
It's
problem.
much
I'd like to
nicer.
see one, just
It looks
see,
much
see how it
nicer.
works. I'd like to find out what happens underneath it. They talk about, and let's face it, in Europe, they're using it all over the place.
Right.
Japan, Tokyo, they got huge fields of it in
They said
water.
They got it in Florida, and it keeps the temperature of the water cooler. Under the
mean,
panels.
but you
And it
still, like,
shields it from the sun.
Slows
You
down on
do
the
still
eye.
have to worry about impacts, shading impacts, I guess. I
I
don't,
would
I don't
imagine.
know.
like
All right.
Well,
anything
if
else.
if it's not a wetland, say, to start with, that they're working.
Oh, I see what you're saying, so
It's
it's just,
man-made,
right,
but,
it do-
yeah,
right.
that, then they should be able to disregard, basically, the effect of what happens underneath.
Right,
So, it's just,
a lot of wildlife and.
I don't know, the whole climate change is occurring so fast, and our efforts to deal with it are so
Like-
paltry.
Our concerns also let's face it, our concerns also have to be for the cranberry growers, because,
Yeah.
let's face it,
That's what built this town.
what is it,
cranberry.
80% of the town is cranberries. Think about that. So, if they don't
bad.
make it, we're gonna be in trouble.
I kind of disagree with that, because you have homeowners that you gotta protect also. Yes, this town has been built on cranberry growers, but this town is also being built now by homeowners. And they need to be protected just as much.
Well, this is what I was talking about, man, was that we have to make sure that it's good to have all these passive solar systems going in, but we have to protect the people that are already here. And I agree with that. So there's a happy medium. I mean, the planning board has their boundaries that so far, and I hope that doesn't change. So they have to have protection for the passive solar areas to the residential areas. that's all on the planning board. Our concern here, and why we're talking, is strictly because of wetlands. And we're trying to figure out how we can work with, and it's mostly cranberry growers, let's face it, it's the cranberry growers that need the help, and we have to figure a way of helping them.
The town of Carver, I'm not sure if you're aware, is 51% wetland,
No, I understand that,
so.
but we just can't group cranberry growers. You know, I mean, we have to find a happy medium with cranberry growers and homeowners. It's a whole different generation that's coming into Carver now.
Yeah, but the
So
cranberry
we-
growers were here first.
It's
And it's a right, it's a right to farm,
We don't wanna.
this is a right
we
to
don't wanna
farm
go down
town.
that road.
But
Who is
You don't wanna
here
fight with
first,
those
you
guys.
know?
before the cranberry growers, we had iron people that scooped out. Samson's Pond, I don't know if you're aware of that. Samson's Pond was created by people scooping iron ore that had been deposited in the ponds in South Carver. And then it was taken and processed into fires, stoves and so on and so forth, pots,
We
cannonballs.
built the cannons, yeah.
Right, I'm just saying that we just need to respect
Right.
everybody.
Well, we are trying to.
Hearing a couple of comments here, well, you know, we gotta protect this. Well, we need to protect everybody, whether it be cranberry growers, homeowners, industrial.
Well, that's what we're working on, man.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to work on.
If we don't protect the cranberry growers and we have massive infloods of homeowning population, your taxes are going to go. We're talking about protecting homeowners by trying to keep the homes affordable and the cost of living in Carver affordable. Now, we're also trying to get what we can in the way of industrial development. Our former planner here worked very hard on a project which is still ongoing up in North Carver, where we may eventually have a facility there that will bring a lot of taxes into town. But it's just,
No, I understand that. We have to keep a happy medium, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But you're also going to, if every other bog has a solar panel on it, every other homeowner's gonna be gone.
No,
Well,
I don't.
There will be a
The-
lot. A lot.
I don't see
I
that.
think,
We have to,
I think you have to realize that the growers right now, the way things are, it's unsustainable as them being successful as growers. They're not going to be able to make the income that they have to, and that's going to force them to sell their property. So as harsh as it may seem, your options down the road may be looking at a solar farm or looking at condominiums as a homeowner. You know, because the third choice of a cranberry bog in its pristine state is just not sustainable. So those are the questions, and what we're trying to do is trying to make
my
the.
home value is not worth anything if I'm surrounded by solar panels.
will it be worth anything if it's surrounded by condos? And if your school taxes are double what they are today?
And your taxes go up because we have to build another grammar school.
Mr. Warden?
Yeah, we just finished.
May I make a comment on the bylaw? In my case, we, as I said before, we own 50 acres, okay? As we went with the 200-foot buffer, actually it's 225 feet, counting the road, okay? And as you went around our property with that and put the solar where we could fit it, where it was at least 200 feet from the nearest boundary, okay? That made it so that our neighbors can't see the solar at all.
No,
You know,
I'm
so,
okay.
but we are very concerned with our neighbors. I want to get along with my
I'm
neighbors,
sure you do.
you know, and I think,
But I'm not saying, you are an exception to the rule. There
I
are
don't know.
Oh, they don't waive that
There is.
200 foot,
I
though.
live.
Oh, they're not waiving
They,
that 200
yeah, they don't
feet,
waive
let
that
me tell
setback.
ya.
The planning
Oh,
board's
here we
very
go.
good at keeping that.
I'm done.
I promised myself I wouldn't say a word, but I came with my mentor, my guiding light, Mr. Moore.
Oh, here we go.
What more can I do?
So he's buying the beer after.
Yeah,
the
that's
town guy, I
right. We haven't
understand.
gotten, usually it's ice cream. It's better for me, I think. You know, I think you're all hitting it right on the button. I mean, Carver has the most restrictive solar bylaw in the Commonwealth, with 1,000-foot buffers, maybe 200 if there's screening. You won't find that anywhere, and that was to protect your homes and everyone else. But I hear it loud and clear. You know, I got here in 2005, 4 maybe, and the housing boom was going crazy. The Hummock, out on Plymouth Street,
They're all over, yeah.
everybody was selling because the cranberry industry had crashed. I knew nothing about cranberries when I got here. They're gonna be forced to do something. It's a clear indication. So what I liked what I heard from Mr. Dempsey and Mr. Moore, if there's a way to keep these vines alive, I don't know what there is. I'm disappointed, to be honest with you. And DEP comes up with a better or a more positive policy, maybe there's a way to make this happen. Not in every bog in the corner, but maybe there's a happy medium here to keep, allow this in a modest way, if the vines can survive. And I'm very concerned.
We don't want them to turn into sand pits.
No, and that was never the intention.
Oh, I know that, but, and it was our
Everybody-
good intention to make sure that that field succeeded.
Yeah,
but it
I
hasn't.
don't know anything about that.
But with across the street, didn't succeed because of his own personal function there, right? He did not water, he did not keep up like he was
Well,
supposed to.
he went on vacation for, and had an issue, but it isn't that he didn't water, it's,
Yeah,
if he didn't water, he'd still be seeing dead vines. There were bald spots, I mean,
I think
it was all sand.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That is
I
a,
don't know. you
I
know,
wanna see, I just wanna see that in July.
I suggest maybe we get some growers to answer this question. I'm not a grower, I have no idea, no idea.
yeah, I'd like to have maybe the Growers Association come and talk like we did years
And
ago.
maybe Mr. Dempsey's right, there's no way to do it.
Brian
Maybe
Wick.
it's impossible.
Brian
Yeah, Brian Wick would
and,
come, I know that.
John Mason and a few
Yeah.
others.
Hey, Dick,
Yes.
do you think you can get yourself and some of your people to set up a meeting where they can come before the conservation? We can come up with something that
maybe
might.
Brian Wick?
Brian Wick
What would
and,
be appropriate would be the Growers Association.
Yes.
yeah,
A couple of the knowledgeable growers that are on their board of directors.
Yeah.
And Brian Wick, who's the CEO of our
Executive
Growers
Director.
Association.
he's pretty good.
They could present it to you and answer questions and, you know, like we're talking about growing cranberries under the panels. Well, there's a lot of ifs and question marks on that.
Yeah,
So they could address that too.
This-
that's what I'm thinking.
Just a minute. There's a baseball player looking for somebody, just came out of the stairway there.
Is anybody waiting for the son? Oh, no? Oh, he probably just
There
lost.
he is.
You lost?
Jim Hoffman.
Yeah, Kyle.
Kyle, he's downstairs.
Okay.
Did you win?
We lost.
Sorry.
You should have said sure.
He's smiling and he lost.
So we should set up a meeting
I
then.
think that's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
One of the questions when
But if
we,
anybody has an answer, it's these guys.
Yeah, so is there any way that we could work this out, Dick, get
I
some?
will
Talk to
present
yeah.
it to Brian Wick.
And have him get a hold of Jim?
Yep,
Have him get a
yep.
hold of Jim, so
Would you want to do it at a night
When you
meeting?
can
we could do
fit
a
it-
regular meeting, yeah.
Do a regular meeting,
When
okay.
you can fit it in, you can schedule it with.
We could just do a regular.
we could have it-
Like a
we could-
regular meeting.
I
then.
have
We can
my-
advertise it to, you know, any,
Would be good to
Yeah.
get the word out.
Gary Garrett's. in-
advertise it,
If
in the
it
paper.
starts to look,
Would be excellent.
I'd love to hear what,
Would you
if
want
there's
to do
enough
it?
demand, we might even try and see whether we could do it at one of the school auditoriums.
Yeah.
So, if there's enough people.
The odd thing I've learned is that, and you guys know this, with cranberries, it's a wetland. There's very few crops like that. I mean,
Right.
everywhere else in the state, they're putting them in cornfields.
Yeah.
They're not coming to see you guys.
No.
It's an odd, but they're dependent upon this. They don't have an alternative.
one of the questions when we went and visited Mike Paddock's bog a couple of weeks ago, one of the questions I asked him was, what is the market for vines? And is there a pecking order? Are there certain vines that are more in demand than others? And
Our old early blacks and house are what our state average basically is, 110 to 120 barrels per acre. The hybrids, the first generation of hybrids were Stevens and Ben Lees. And they were in the range of 300 barrels to the acre, which is, and I guess you might say 250 to 300. Okay? The next generation of hybrids, which came from Rutgers University in New Jersey, were 400 and 450 barrels to the acre. Crimson Queens, Di Mirandos, or there's quite a few, several. Then they came out with another generation 3 years ago that might be 500 to 600 barrels to the acre. Now the problem is, I'm 78 this year, and the cost to renovate a bog, an acre of bog, now you have to tear it
Yeah.
all out.
Yeah,
And
resand
you
it,
have to kill the root system and everything.
yeah.
And then you put on sand, and they're putting 5 to 6 inches of sand on.
That's
which
expensive too.
Is $13, $14 a
Yeah.
yard.
That's expensive.
100 yards per acre. Then the sprinkler system, and then you buy these patented little plant things, and you put a machine and you put one in every corner of a square foot. And that's $12,000 per acre for those plants. So it's $50,000 an acre to put in, to renovate into one of these new high production bedders.
Right.
Now, if you want to be competitive down the road, and you're younger than I am, then you have to go that route. Because the payback, I think, is in the range of 13 to 14 years.
And you're mortgaging yourself out.
Well, you're mortgaging, but.
Well, ever since Quebec, yeah, it's really,
Right,
They're a new growing area, so when they came into existence, they started putting hybrids in right away.
I guess my point is that at some point, people who may come before us saying that they're going to grow and sell the vines, there will be more vines for sale than there will be buyers.
Well, that bog over there, those are Stevens vines. I won't comment on whether they're alive or dead or what, but.
you go look and tell me.
There's still some market for Stevens.
Okay.
That, because some people don't really want to go into these high production ones because they're not sure of the consistency over time. We know that Stevens, that variety, is consistent 300 barrels to the acre over time.
Right, but at some point,
But there are people buying Stevens, not many, I don't think.
but at some point, if this growing, putting solar on a bog and saying you're going to sell the vines, at some point, it's not going to be viable because there's not going to be a market anymore.
And that'd be a great discussion to have
Yeah.
with the growers too.
Yes.
I think that's gonna be a very short market, in a very short amount of time.
Right,
So,
that's true.
I think we have to look at it as, I think the way I look at it now is that I look at them putting them, I don't look at them ever selling the vines, I really don't. At this point, only because I saw the deplorable condition of what I saw down there. Now, I hope in July that it's all turned around, but, you know, if you saw, Dick, if you saw that down there, you'd say, what the hell?
I was thinking of going over there today to try to see it before I came, before you folks tonight. I didn't get a chance.
Yeah, you'd have a stroke. I know you, because I know how your fields are. You got beautiful fields.
We don't wanna have that.
You know what I'm saying?
I will try to arrange something.
Okay, yep.
With you and Brooke.
Yep, talk to
Yeah.
me and we'll,
And Brian,
We'd love to.
and we will be glad to come.
okay.
I'm saying we will
I
be
might
glad to.
come
because
back.
we
I was gonna
better
say.
do
I'll keep you in the loop,
Yeah,
or he'll keep you in the loop.
so dry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Knowledge helps us.
yes.
You know, and that's really what we're trying to do.
And you
It's a-
ladies can
It's a
come.
balancing act.
Are we done?
I'd like to say that the solar ventures are not the first thing that the cranberry growers have attempted to try and increase their income. Back about 2004 and 5, there was an effort by 3 growers to get wind turbines on their bogs. And it was a challenge, and zoning board of appeals, which became involved, tabled all of the discussions because they really didn't know how to handle them. But in the end, it was turned out to be moot because of the fact that the fellow who sold the ventures, he took $800 from each of 3 growers here to begin this operation. He defrauded them by leaving town with the money. And then he ended up in the Bristol County Jail, though, eventually. Took them a while. And he's a former state representative, another fine man of the State House in Massachusetts.
No need to mention it.
Are we done?
We are done.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
A comment.